He's next from New York. Sean Hannity, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Tucker, great interview with Ivanka. Welcome to Hannity. This is a Fox News alert. All right, tonight is one of those nights. We have so much new information. It will take much longer than an hour to get through it, but we're going to try. Now, we have more proof tonight that when it comes to the Clinton scandals, the fix is always in. The Democratic Party tonight is in complete and total disarray with a barrage of massive scandals unfolding like we told you they would. This is an all-out battle that's playing out between Donna Brazile, the Democrats, the media, after she revealed that Hillary Clinton rigged, stole the DNC primary election. She stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders. It's all unfolding tonight, and Brazile has a simple message for her critics. You can go straight to hell. Also tonight, The Hill's John Solomon is reporting that Senator Chuck Grassley has confirmed that an early draft of the former FBI Director James Comey announcement exonerating Hillary Clinton accused her of gross negligence. This is key in the email server scandal, which means, by definition, she broke the law, but he changed it. In other words, the fix was in here. The Clintons rig everything. And disturbing new information about Fusion GPS. That's the company that produced the Hillary Clinton's dirty dossier. Remember, they used fake news, Russian lies, and propaganda, all to smear, besmirch, and slander Donald Trump. The House Intelligence Committee is now asking the firm for records of alleged payments to journalists. Plus, another high-ranking Democrat is now forced to admit that she has seen no evidence, zero after a year, of Trump-Russian collusion. Maybe it's time to give it up. And also, it was the worst mass shooting in Texas history. Sadly, 26 people were killed, 20 others injured. And what happens? The left races to politicize that horrific tragedy. That and much more in tonight's Breaking News opening monologue. All right, tonight we're going to go through step by step. We're going to explain how the fix was in with every single scandal involving the Clintons. Here's everything you need to know when it comes to America's most corrupt political family. No rules apply, no laws exist, ethics do not matter. Hillary Clinton rigged the Democratic primary to stop Bernie Sanders. She robbed him blind. The fix was in. Hillary Clinton actually colluded with Russia by paying, millions and millions of dollars for that fake news dossier, Russian propaganda, Russian collusion to smear Donald Trump. And she tried to influence you, the American people, to swing the election with those lies. The fix was in. James Comey changed the announcement about Clinton's private email server even after her team deleted 33,000 subpoenaed emails, destroyed some of them by using acid wash, known as bleach bit, and even taking a hammer to BlackBerries. The fix was in. Bill Clinton met with former Attorney General Loretta Lynch on tarmac in an airport for 40 minutes, only days before Comey's decision. Are we really to believe all they talked about was their grandkids? The fix was in. Then there's the corrupt Uranium One deal. Millions of dollars pour into the Clinton Foundation and Bill and Hillary's pocket. She's the Secretary of State. She approved this agreement, one of 9 people. And, of course, all while Bill is doubling his speaking fees in Moscow and, by the way, trying to meet with nuclear officials in Russia, and he did meet with Vladimir Putin. And there's also the massive plot that the FBI uncovered 1 year before that deal was approved, which includes bribery, extortion, money laundering, kickbacks, racketeering. Key members of the Obama administration knew this was happening, including Mueller and Eric Holder, yet they decided to give 20% of America's uranium to Russia and to Putin. The fix was in. Even Lindsey Graham is now calling for a special counsel to be appointed to investigate Clinton. Actually, he wants 2 special counsels. All these cases prove the Clintons think they are above the law, and they are protected by Democrats and a colluding media. But tonight, one Democrat is calling them out. Former interim DNC chair Donna Brazile continues to expose this corrupt Clinton political machine on a level nobody ever knew existed. Hillary rigged, stole the Democratic primary, stole the Democratic nomination. And Donna Brazile is continuing to tell her story after she wrote an article for Politico magazine last week entitled "Inside Hillary Clinton's Secret Takeover of the DNC." And she explained how it was all rigged, and she found evidence Hillary, quote, rigged the DNC, cheated Bernie Sanders and his supporters out of the nomination. It was so bad, Donna Brazile secret agreement between the Clinton campaign and the DNC. It gave Hillary Clinton and her campaign total control of the DNC's finances, strategy, personnel decisions, budgeting, data, analytics, and mailings. Think about this for a minute. Hillary Clinton, former First Lady of Arkansas and the United States, former senator, stole a primary election. All of you who voted for Bernie Sanders, you were cheated. Everybody. Disenfranchised. She sold you out. There are also new parts of Donna Brazil's book that are coming out, like how she considered trying to replace Hillary Clinton with Joe Biden as the party's nominee. Remember when Hillary collapsed at the 9/11 memorial? We played it a lot. Well, Brazil also writes that the Clinton campaign treated her like crap by writing that she told Clinton's team, quote, "Y'all keep whipping me, and you never give me any money or any way to do my job. I'm not going to be your whipping girl." Predictably, Democrats are lashing out at Donna Brazil for telling the truth and blowing the whistle on Clinton corruption. Watch this.
I think anybody who suggests that the DNC has the power to rig an election. When I was DNC chair, I knew, Katie, what we did didn't influence 10 votes. I find it hard to believe anybody can cite anything that may have rigged the primary elections in Hillary Clinton's favor.
I have great respect for Donna. Consider her a friend. She's done a lot for the Democratic Party. The charge that Hillary Clinton was somehow incapacitated is quite frankly ludicrous.
So do you agree with the Clinton campaign that Donna Brazil fell for Russian propaganda?
I don't know what Donna Brazil fell for. When I hear the word rigged, let's be very clear. Hillary Clinton won the Democratic primary by 4 million votes. The Democratic National Committee does not run elections for primaries.
The allegation she's making there simply isn't true.
I would hope that there's another side to the story. But that, again, that's neither here nor there. It's almost a waste of time.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares? Let's listen to Donna Brazil. One more time.
Nobody cares.
On this week.
Nobody cares about what Donna Brazil has said in a book.
Governor, 1 second.
Nobody.
You don't think anybody cares about her story?
Nobody cares.
Really, Governor? Nobody cares she stole an election? You know and I know that's a lie. And by the way, the liberal mainstream media, the same people that colluded with Hillary Clinton, the same people that are basically an extension of the Democratic National Committee and their talking points every day, that don't have an original thought in their head, and they're a bunch of sheep that apologize constantly for the Democrats. Well, now they're apoplectic. Watch this.
To go back over this now, when they're trying to win congressional races and trying to get ready for 18, seems to me to be beyond counterproductive.
I've gotten emails from Democrats, passionate Democrats, who say they feel betrayed by all this. Any regrets? You think this helps for the book to come out?
My issue is not that she's speaking out. My issue is the fact that she's been wrong. I think if I had done half the things that she admits to in these excerpts, I'm not sure I would be telling folks.
All right, thankfully, Brazil is not going to be pressured. She's signaling she's not going to be silenced by an avalanche of left-wing attacks. Watch this.
George, for those who are telling me to shut up, they told Hillary that a couple of months ago. You know what I tell them? Go to hell. I'm going to tell my story.
Good for her. Also tonight, a smoking gun bombshell report from the Hill's John Solomon. Now, an early draft of James Comey's now infamous announcement about the Clinton email investigation actually accused Hillary of being grossly negligent. Okay, understand those words are precise and specific. The exact standard, which means she broke the law. And John Solomon obtained a copy of a letter that Senator Chuck Grassley sent to the FBI, which contains the key sentences found in the draft memo. It says, quote, "There is evidence to support a conclusion that Secretary Clinton and others used the private email server in a manner that was grossly negligent with respect to the handling of classified information and material." And another part of the memo says, quote, "Similarly, the sheer volume of information that was properly classified as secret at the time it was discussed on email," that is excluding the up-classified emails, "supports the inference that the participants were grossly negligent in their handling of that information." Now, those words are key. They were later then edited out and replaced with the term extremely careless. At the time, I told you there's no difference, even though he explained that Clinton had secret, top secret, special access program, classified information on an email server stored in the basement of a mom and pop shop, which, by the way, we now know 5 separate intelligence agencies, countries that don't like us, were able to hack into. And a source also told John Solomon that 3 other people were involved in helping draft and then edit out. Had deep ties to the Clintons. They donated $500,000 to the state Senate campaign of McCabe's wife, Jill. And she also got another $200,000 from the Virginia Democratic Party. For a state race, this is unheard of. And late last week, we learned from Judicial Watch that Andrew McCabe did not recuse himself from the Clinton server investigation until just days before the election. There's also more tonight. The FBI General Counsel, James Baker, he was also involved. Investigative reporter Sarah Carter reported back in July that Baker was being investigated for leaking classified information to the press. And the third person who helped Comey was his former chief of staff. Now, John Solomon's report also notes that it was not clear who recommended making the crucial change in wording, but that the Senate will likely demand those answers. Good, it's about time. We have been saying for over a year, Comey, the Obama Justice Department, were protecting Hillary Clinton for laws she broke that we'd be put in jail for. This revelation tonight offers up even more incontrovertible evidence. Comey's original news conference never made any sense, because he literally explained how Clinton broke the law for 13 and a half minutes. But then he stopped short of recommending charges by claiming she was extremely careless instead of grossly negligent. A huge legal distinction. Take a look at the side of your screen. It's a list that our friend and colleague, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, put together for us tonight, showing the laws that Clinton violated with the private email server. We'd go to jail for this. Comey top FBI officials knew Clinton engaged in criminal conduct. Otherwise, they wouldn't have accused her of gross negligence. But then something happened. The million-dollar question is what? And remember one other thing. Remember, Comey made his decision well before he ever talked to the main people involved. He had already concluded before he investigated what the outcome would be. Remember, he refused to testify, did testify under oath, that former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Remember, she pressured Comey to call the investigation, which was an investigation, a matter, and then he complied. And we also know that Comey decided to not recommend charges against Clinton months before interviewing the key witnesses in the case, including Hillary. Investigation. That is why, in addition to Congress, the Department of Justice needs to open an investigation into how the FBI and the Obama administration handled the Clinton case, where obvious law breaking took place. We cannot in this country have a two-tier justice system. That's not how this country works or is supposed to work. Also tonight, a source is telling Fox News, our own Catherine Herridge, that the House Intelligence Committee is now asking Fusion GPS, that's the company behind the fake, phony, anti-Trump Russian dossier, to turn over records that allegedly show payments to journalists to publish stories. Wow. You talk about first Russia propaganda, Hillary, the DNC that she ran, she paid for it all. And then, of course, the group that used it, now they're saying, hey, let's pay the journalists. Now, keep in mind, the same company that they used to funnel $10 million or more through a third-party lawyer to create the dossier that used Russian sources to smear the president and try and influence the American people with phony Russian information to steal an election. And on the issue of so-called Trump-Russia collusion, tonight yet another prominent Democrat forced to admit a year later she has seen nothing to indicate there was any collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians. Here's Democrat, Senator, liberal, leftist Dianne Feinstein.
Have you seen any evidence that this dirt, these emails, were ever given to the Trump campaign?
Not so far.
Not so far. Have you seen any communications that suggested that the Trump campaign wanted them to release them through a different means? Because obviously they were ultimately released by WikiLeaks.
No, I have not.
If the Democrats and the left-wing media in this country cared even a little bit about the truth, then they would stop spreading lies about President Trump. And now they should focus on real Russia collusion, real crime, real evidence, real impropriety. And finally tonight, our hearts, our prayers go out to the people in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Their unimaginable pain and suffering after a madman attacked a church yesterday, killing 26 people, including young children, injuring 20 others. This is beyond tragic. And the Democrats, sadly, members of the mainstream media, within hours they're racing to politicize this tragedy, call for more gun control. Now, think about this for a second. People are still in the hospital. Others haven't even been laid to rest. All they care about is politics. And what's ironic is these are the same people who are exploiting this tragedy. That they never talk about Chicago. I have some information about Chicago from this weekend. I've been saying it for years. We've scrolled the names of the thousands killed because the media ignored it. And even then, President Obama ignored it. 18,000 shootings in Chicago in his last 6 years. Really? 3,000 dead? Now, 30 people were shot this weekend. There's been almost 600 homicides this year in Chicago. We'll talk about all of this later in the program. Here first with reaction or breaking news from the Hill. We have John Solomon, investigative reporter Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett is with us. John, let's start with your story. We have so much ground to cover. This is massive. This distinction is massive. Give us what you got.
Yeah, I think you just think back. If in June of last year, July of last year, the FBI director had accused her of being grossly negligent, what impact that would have had on the election, what impact it would have had on the legal debate about what we thought the FBI knew. They thought she was careless. Now we find out she was grossly negligent. That was the term that was in the statute, and it is surprising that it got edited out. And the questions for Congress are going to be, who did they talk to before they edited it out? Who recommended editing it out? And why did they do it? And I think we're going to get those answers in the next couple of weeks.
All right, let me go to Greg Jarrett, legal analyst. Okay, when Comey deletes the specific legal term gross negligence, and he decides, before he does the investigation, concludes he's going to exonerate her.
Right.
This is being done before he ever interviews her or the other witnesses.
I've never heard of it. I've been a lawyer.
Well, that's called a fixes in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been a lawyer for 37 years. I've never heard of a prosecutor exonerating somebody 2 months in advance before interviewing her and the key witnesses. When you cross out gross negligence and insert extremely careless, that's pretty incriminating evidence that Comey or others may have been obstructing justice. They were trying to interfere with the due administration of justice, and they were stupid in the way they did it, because gross negligence is extremely careless behavior. In fact, when jurors struggle with that, the judge gives them a standard jury instruction. Here's California's, for example. Gross negligence is an extreme departure from ordinary care. In other words, extremely careless behavior. So it tells me Comey, in addition to attempting to obstruct justice, perhaps, doesn't know a damn thing about the law.
Scary, but no. When the fix is in, it's corruption. When you have a conclusion before an investigation, the fix was in. Let me go through this a little bit with Sarah Carter. So she rigs the primary election, and Democrats are trying to tell us, oh, that's not a big deal. Then she tried to fix the general election by paying for Russian bought and paid propaganda, lying about Donald Trump. And then it gets even bigger than that. Then we've got, the fix with Comey, as we were just talking about. Then the fix with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac. Is there anything the Clintons don't fix or try to fix?
Well, over the last year, the Democrats have been pointing their finger at the Trump campaign, and at President Trump, that he had to fix in with Russia. But all the evidence, Sean, points to the Democrats and Russia. And this is beyond partisan, because what John showed in this story with this removal of gross negligence was something that the FBI, agents within the FBI, since last July, when Comey made this statement, they were up in arms. People within the FBI, former FBI agents, they were so frustrated. They didn't understand what was going on here. One thing they did understand was that there was some kind of fix, and they wanted to figure out, why did Comey do this? And now we see there's a little bit more evidence shedding light onto this.
All right, John, let's go back to your reporting. Let's go back to what you have. You actually updated your column from earlier today. Why don't we give everybody the latest news?
Yeah, it wasn't just a single time that they mentioned this term. They went in
gross negligence.
Gross negligence. They were in and they said, listen, one of the things that strikes us is there were lots of secret information that passed through that pattern, that the constant being able to put that into the emails really concerned them as evidence of what was going on here. And I think it wasn't an accidental term that was thrown in there. It was thought through early on in May, and by June, somehow that term drops out of the statement. It's very surprising, and I think people are going to ask a lot of questions.
What about the whole email issue?
Right.
That we're now understanding more. I mean, if I deleted 33,000 emails,
right.
If I destroyed my hard drives, if I busted up my BlackBerries, what would happen? Would I be calling you from jail?
You'd be charged with obstruction of justice, a violation of the Federal Records Act, and the Public Officers Law. Those are 3 criminal statutes that have serious penalties. You know, when you receive a congressional subpoena, on your documents, you are instructed to preserve and produce them. She chose to do neither one of them. She destroyed 33,000 of them, and it is inconceivable to me that she wasn't charged.
Let me get last question. I've got to update the audience, Sarah, on Uranium One. Now, every day, every week, this keeps growing as well. The fact that that Mueller and Eric Holder knew about bribery, extortion, kickbacks, money laundering, racketeering in 2009. How do they get to investigate? How does Mueller investigate anything Russia? Shouldn't he be investigated? Shouldn't everyone involved in that deal be investigated?
I certainly know from talking to sources, Sean, I don't think it's going to be Mueller, and I don't think it's going to be Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. And I know now that Attorney General Jeff Sessions did not recuse himself from the Uranium One investigation.
That's huge.
It is huge. It is huge. And it's, you know, despite the fact that we've seen reports out there that they said he did not. So I believe right now there is an ongoing investigation into this. I do believe that a special counsel will be announced. We're not certain yet, but this is where the direction it's going in, and we just have to remain patient and wait and see.
All right, you guys have done amazing work. We're like unpeeling the layers of an onion. And here's what I can tell everybody in the media that's so lame. TikTok, there's so much more coming. There's a hint. A lot more information on these unfolding scandals. But right now, I got a question for you. Does James Comey owe the American people an explanation? Absolutely. Tweet me at Sean Hannity on Twitter. All right, welcome back to Hannity. Busy breaking news night. Joining us with more reaction to this bombshell claim. Hillary Clinton stole the DNC primary. Just stop. Take that in. Stole it. A rigged primary in the United States of America. Most of the media ignores it. The former National Justice Director for Bernie Sanders, Teslin Figaro, and former Clinton pollster, Fox News contributor Doug Schoen. Teslin, I think of you, and I remember you've been on the show before. Maybe we have some disagreements on some issues. I could never support Bernie Sanders. Obviously, my political views are different. But if you go and you donate and you work and you go to the polls and you wait in a primary and it turns out it was for nothing, and every major Democrat is just trying, oh, it's nothing. That's an insult to every single person. That's a rigged election. That is them doing the things, you know, we literally have rendered the votes of people meaningless in America, disenfranchised all these people. Nothing. Your reaction?
You know, it's not even, Sean, just to those who supported Senator Sanders. It's to everyone, including you. Any American citizen that has the right to vote, to have that be disenfranchised is a disrespect to anyone who believes in the American process, democratic process. You know, Hillary Clinton wrote a book called What Happened, but Donna Brazile wrote What Really Happened Part 2. And for that, that has hurt a lot of Democrats. They're upset. For them to even ostracize her, for someone who has spent over 40 years in the Democrat Party, has been a Clinton loyalist, to bring this news out and for them to pretty much crucify her for speaking the truth is an injustice. You know, they pretend, all of the pundits pretend, you know, there's no way Democrats can rig a primary. No one's saying that people went in and changed the voting, you know, the voting machines. What we're saying is the super delegates, the 700 super delegates that had superpower to use. Exactly. To use their power over the will of the people to influence their communities. We went out to these locations. The people told us that they wanted to support certain, Senator Sanders, but could not because of the backlash that they pretty much Donna Brazile is receiving now.
Doug, you're an honest guy.
Yeah, look, I support the general thrust of what you and certainly Teslin are saying. People were disenfranchised. But I want to go a step further tonight. The entire Democratic Party stinks from the head down. The whole process, everyone has really stain on their hands. And with this new revelation tonight on the emails that it probably involved gross negligence, it strengthens my call and that of others for a special prosecutor to look at that, Comey, the gross negligence, to look at the email deal more generally, to look at Uranium One, the dossier, all of it. Because at this point, what we know is getting more and more troubling. I say this as a loyal Democrat. I know Teslin's a loyal Democrat. But as she said, and I would say, this is not partisan. This is about preserving our democracy.
Listen, you hear me. I am more critical of Republicans. They're weak and timid, and they've lost their identity and vision, their inability to keep promises. I'm more critical of them. And you're more critical now. What do you make of every Democrat that has gone out there? Oh, no big deal. Oh, so what? We disenfranchised Bernie people. Really?
I was the only mainstream Democrat that I'm aware of who publicly disavowed Hillary in the election. I said,
you heard Ed Rendell. You heard Terry McAuliffe.
I did. And my point is, I said there would be a constitutional crisis if she was elected. We have one now, and she wasn't elected. Sean, it stinks. It's rotten.
Oh, there's a lot more coming.
More than rigged.
I know more than I can say tonight.
Right.
There is a lot more coming. Teslin, we'll give you the last word.
I'll say that I look forward to a lot more coming that we've been talking about for years and years and years. Donna Brazile even talked about the money that was spent on consultants years ago, and for them to cast her away, to me, the only African-American woman that has led a presidential campaign in the Democrat Party, to me, says as a black woman, how they feel about black women and black women operatives who have spent their entire lives pushing the Democratic Party, and I'm offended for her and anyone else that has ever had any skin in the game in making this process work.
Sean, we need a cleansing of the entire process, a special prosecutor.
Trump is right. It's a swamp. Republican swamp, Democratic swamp,
I
DC
agree.
swamp.
It's both parties
Disgusting.
a swamp. Let's clean it out. We need a prosecutor.
I agree.
All right.
Thank you, Ted.
We agree tonight, Doug.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, so more new information. More to come on the Bombshell Report. James Comey, he drafted that memo that accused Hillary of gross negligence, the legal standard in the email server scandal. Why did he change it? The fix was in. Sebastian Gorka, Victoria Tunsinger here tonight to react, and so much more. Straight ahead. All right, welcome back to Hannity. So on this program, night after night, we call for equal justice under the law. Whether it's the Russian investigation, any criminal matter, no person, no matter how privileged, rich, entitled, connected, should receive any special treatment from our government. Now, sadly, that is not the case with the Clintons. For example, you might remember when James Comey admitted under oath that then Attorney General Loretta Lynch asked him to call the investigation into Clinton's email server scandal. Not an investigation. Don't call it an investigation. Call it a matter. And he listened to her. Watch this.
The Clinton campaign at the time was using all kinds of euphemisms, security review, matters, things like that for what was going on. We were getting to a place where the Attorney General and I were both going to have to testify and talk publicly about it. And I wanted to know, was she going to authorize us to confirm we had an investigation? And she said, yes, but don't call it that. Call it a matter. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, just call it a matter.
Just follow the Clinton talking points. Of course, you're the FBI director. I'm the Attorney General. The fix is in. Here now is the author of Defeating Jihad, former Deputy Assistant to the President, Sebastian Gorka, and the attorney, the person representing that FBI informant in the Uranium One scandal, Victoria Tunsinger, is back with us. All right. He not only followed Loretta Lynch's advice, Sebastian, he also then went forward with the matter, and the fix was in. Gross negligence. That is a legal term. It was in not one, but at least 2 documents. They edited it out to get the legal standard gone so that they could exonerate her before they even did the investigation. I've never heard of such insider backroom dealing in my life. You'd be in jail. Victoria would be in, well, Victoria would never be in jail because she has Joe. And I'd be in jail. Your thoughts?
Mere mortals like you and I, Sean, yes, we'd be in jail. I spent 15 years of my life living in the former dictatorship of Hungary. And this is worse than the stuff I saw there, living in a country that had been a dictatorship for 40 years. There's a fact pattern. Victoria is the legal professional, but even I can see the fact pattern. There are key individuals, Comey, Mueller, McCabe, Rosenstein, and it's clear that these individuals thought Hillary was going to win. All of these people are buddies. They stick together. They watch each other's back, and they did what they thought would guarantee their future under a Hillary White House. The wrong candidate won, and we see what we see today. And I'll share one thing with you, Sean, that I haven't said before on television. I tried for 6 months to work with the FBI out of the White House on a specific project. The FBI at the highest level blocked me. At the end of the day, I had a senior FBI agent say the following thing to me. He said, Sebastian, you need to understand the 7th floor of the FBI, meaning the senior leadership, looks at the Trump White House as the enemy.
Deep state.
That's how bad it is, Sean.
Victoria, if the fix is in and he's writing the exoneration before he's done his investigation, if he takes Loretta Lynch's cue, she of course met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac, and then he changes the standard from gross negligence, which is the legal standard, how could any person conclude anything other than the fix was in, just like she rigged the election, just like she tried to rig the general election? She rigged the primary. She tried to do it with the fake Russian lie propaganda dossier. There's a lot of fixing going on here.
Well, yeah, but Sean, gross negligence is the statutory term, but I can tell you extremely careless is also a legal term, and as Greg said earlier on your show, it would be synonymous, and a judge would explain that to a jury. So it was a little too cute by far. And then, as you said, Comey accepted calling the investigation a matter. And where was Comey after that tarmac meeting? If I had been FBI director, I would have called in every agent, FBI agent, on her detail and asked them how that meeting came about and what was the timing and what were they responsible for and what orders were they given. I don't think that's been done yet. Where was Comey's inner moral code? Let me tell you a story about him. When he was Deputy Attorney General and lawyers would argue with him at the Justice Department, he would turn to them and say, I think your moral compass is askew. Well, let me tell you whose moral compass is askew, James Comey's.
Let me get an update from you on Uranium One, the FBI informant who had a muzzle on him, an NDA on him. You've been able to get that lifted now. The Uranium One deal sold out our security. We import uranium. Why we would ever give 20% to Russia? And when they knew in 2009, Mueller knew. Eric Holder had to know. They're with the FBI, the FBI director and the head of the Justice Department. Bribery, kickbacks, extortion, money laundering, and racketeering. How could they have not stopped that?
Who? I mean, who was going to stop it? It seems like Obama wasn't going to stop it, even though the FBI was telling the informant that the president was being briefed on this investigation.
Meaning Obama.
So yes, the President Obama was being briefed on this investigation,
now,
and he didn't stop
it. In other words, through the presidential daily briefing. What will your client, this informant who has documents, emails, tape recordings, and infiltrated for all that period of time, what will he tell us? What will the country learn?
Oh, you know you've done this before, and I'm not going to tell you yet. He doesn't have the gag order, but this is a time that I am working with him in organizing his presentation, and I'm not about to reveal it now, but we're working very hard.
Will it be historic?
Well, I think it will be very informative about what the Russians were doing at the time.
That's why you're a good lawyer. So, Dr. Gorka, I got to ask you this. Donna Brazile saying the primary was fixed. Hillary owned the DNC, so she used the DNC to funnel money through a lawyer to pay for the phony Russian information. She used her campaign to pay the lawyer to funnel this phony Russian information to rig and fix the general election. Where's the media in this country?
When all of this is a house of cards that is collapsing. The DNC, the Clinton scandal after scandal. When everything comes out in the wash, I think we will be shocked, and we will find that the Clinton corruption, this cartel, will make Al Capone looked like a guy that took your lunch money from the cattle futures on down, right through to Benghazi, right through to Uranium One. The Clintons have been a decades-long crime cartel, and the Uranium One scandal is the biggest. 20% of our uranium. Let's just let that sink in. Nuclear weapons, radiological medicine, all of that given to Vladimir Putin. It beggars belief, Sean.
I can tell you on
Sean,
real quick, Victoria.
Do you have a second for me to make one point? The Clintons are successful because they try to ruin anybody who opposes them. Watch what's going to happen to Donna Brazile. You'll be able to do clips all day tomorrow about people who are saying, oh, she doesn't know what she was doing. Donna Brazile is a tough cookie. She used to even hang around with some of us Republican women years back.
I've known her for years. She is tough. She's very tough.
Yeah, she's gonna take them on.
There is more than I can tell tonight that I know. TikTok, stay tuned. We got a lot more coming. Good. Thank you both for being with us. When we come back, the left politicizing this tragedy in Texas over the weekend, using what happened at this church shooting to push gun control. David Clark, Daryl Parks. Powerful debate straight ahead.
I pulled up on the intersection and I saw the shooter coming from the cars actually right outside the church that were parked. His vehicle was parked, door open, engine running, and him and the neighbor across the street were both coming out about the same time, exchanging fire. The shooter got in his truck. The gentleman with the rifle came to my truck as the shooter took off, and he briefed me quickly on what had just happened and said that we had to get him, and so that's what I did. He just hurt so many people, and he just affected so many people's lives. Why wouldn't you want to take him down?
That was just one of two Texans who chased this church gunman, Devin Kelly, describing the pursuit which eventually led to Kelly taking his own life. Now, tonight, the country mourns for the Texans, all of them, their families who lost loved ones, and those that were killed in a church. While much of the country grieves for the victims, well, once again, the left rushes to politicize a tragedy, make it about gun control. Last week, remember the terror attack in New York? That wasn't a gun. Take a look.
Since I arrived at Congress this year, I've been talking about limiting magazine capacity in guns, and this is just another incident, probably the fourth or fifth this year, that could have been, if not prevented, certainly the damage would have diminished greatly if we had just made small changes to our gun laws that we have right now.
The Second Amendment in this case has nullified the right to live for many people in this church, and I think a national discussion has to happen.
Most of us are fervent supporters of the Second Amendment, but this type of, to your point, proliferation of mass casualty events like this, we have to do something. Not doing anything and expecting a different outcome, Chris, is the definition of insanity.
Oh, it's too soon. Oh, it's too soon. Really? We're not safe at school. We're not safe in church. We're not safe at concerts. Like, exactly when can we have this conversation? You're cowards.
Here with reaction is America First Action spokesman, senior advisor, our friend, former Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark, civil rights attorney Daryl Parks. Why the rush to politicize? You know, at the end of the day, it's the fact that a neighbor got his gun. So many instances where people get guns, use guns to protect innocent people. Here's my question to you. If God forbid, and we've known each other a long time, but God forbid you're in a situation where shooting is occurring. I've been licensed to carry in New York, Rhode Island, California, Alabama, and Georgia. My whole adult life I've carried a gun. Been trained since I'm 11 in the safe use of firearms. And if something happens, do you want me in the room next to you?
For sure.
Even for sure.
You want a neighbor with a gun there. But Sean, here's the deal. We've seen countless deaths from guns over the last few months and years. We have to have a response to what we do about these situations. In this situation here, we have a man who may have been mentally disturbed. We have to respond to help
we learned tonight that I think it was an oversight, probably innocent, that the military forgot to put his name into the database. That was a misstep. We can't have missteps. We got to be on our game.
We got to be on our game. And when those type of mistakes happen, people have to answer. And hopefully, the Department of Defense is going to answer. How can we?
But you want me in the room. If God forbid hell breaks loose, you want a trained. I'm actually, so people call my radio show, what kind of gun should I get? My answer is always the same. Well, what do you want to get trained in the safety and use of?
Well, I'll tell you.
What do you want to get trained in? You carry a gun.
I carry a gun. I have a concealed weapon. I learned as a Boy Scout. My Boy Scout troop taught me how to use a gun.
I don't like agreeing with you. Sheriff Clark, help me out here. Daryl's making sense tonight. But the bottom line is, we would end school shootings if we had retired military or we had retired policemen in these schools. So if God forbid something happens, we have a first line of defense. And the same thing in churches. I know churches that in this day and age have multiple armed guards to protect those people that attend these services. Then they should.
Sean, three things in life are certain: death, taxes, and the Democrats and anti-gun movement politicizing a tragedy like we saw in Texas yesterday. This isn't about guns. They know it. But like you said, with breakneck speed, they race to a microphone or a camera to try to politicize the event, to take this out on people, the over 150 million people estimated in the United States that own guns, that would never do something like this. Our system of justice has always been predicated upon punishing those directly involved in a situation, not those that weren't. The NRA, the National Rifle Association, is the preeminent organization in the United States that talks about gun safety, that talks about keeping guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. They support that kind of legislation, but to take this out on the gun itself or law-abiding citizens who have guns is just plain wrong.
Daryl, why does you're politically a Democrat? Why is your side not understanding what you seem to understand? I don't, my parents, I won't say what they did, but they had law enforcement connections. That's all they did. So they didn't have the guns. I have a fingerprint safe all over my house, and you can't open my safe. And I'm a big believer in safety. But if somebody comes into my house, I'm going to protect my family.
Well, Sean, here's the deal. Without question, right now in Texas, there are over 20 people who lost their lives. I understood there were more than 10 still in the ICU today. We owe those people the truth. We have to do so. There has to be a response from our government to deal with this issue. We can't just not do anything.
You know, you say that, but what that left really wants is in many ways this law-abiding fact. Evil starts in the human heart. And if you can't get a gun, you're going to use knives, or you're going to use a car, or you're going to use a truck, or you're going to use a bomb. Isn't that a fact? Evil is evil.
That's true. But in this situation, we know that this gentleman's past started with domestic violence. We have to deal with that issue. That was the nexus of where it started with him. So
well, also the military. I mean, and Sheriff, listen, if the reports are true tonight and the military didn't pass this information on, that's a flaw in the system. And in that sense, you know what? If that's a mistake, we can't have these flaws because crazy people will do crazy things.
Right. Better record keeping, might help in this situation. But of course, the left just wants to target the gun. I've yet to see a gun laying on a table or in a case lift itself up, point itself at somebody and fire itself, even in a situation such as this. It just doesn't happen. This is the human element here, and there are some things we can do. The NRA has talked about it, but it's not taking guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. Had we had done that, those two heroes who took that guy down after this event wouldn't have had the tools necessary to do that sort of thing. But of course, the left doesn't want to talk about how guns actually save lives in many more situations than what they take.
Last word, Daryl.
Sean, this is not a left or right issue. This is a human decency issue. There are people who are about to bury their loved ones in Texas.
Tell your party. That's your party that politicizes this.
But it's not a left or right issue. This is a life or death issue that we're dealing with.
Well, what happened, I mean, you go to church, I just can't fathom that we now have to have armed guards in church, in school, on every block, on every corner. Evil spreading.
Yes,
all right, thank you all for being with us. Appreciate it. All right, when we come back, an announcement, more Hannity, right after this. All right, some good news. I want to thank all of you, and I mean thank you from the bottom of my heart. The faith-based film, I'm the executive producer. It's called Let There Be Light. It's been a massive success, beyond our wildest dreams. In just the first 2 weeks, the film has doubled in theater exposure, grossed over $4 million, which for a faith-based film is big. We had no help, zero, from any Hollywood studio. It was an independent film. We've been fighting every step of the way. It's been in the top 10 both weeks in movie ticket sales. And get this, it is now the 44th highest grossing Christian movie in history in only 2 weeks. Passion of the Christ, obviously, is #1. We didn't have that budget. But I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Your testament, your writings to me has been beyond touching. And I hope if you liked it, you'll tell your friends. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have left. We will never be the left, mainstream, liberal, destroy Trump media. But Laura Ingraham is next. Hi.